Everyone, this is Kelsey. This is Essentially Book. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. And first off, I've rearranged, so I'm no longer working from home and my office has just gotten reshuffled. I've been wanting to do this for a while. My bookshelf is now on the other side of the room. I have my chair over here. It just makes this room seem a little bit bigger and less cluttered. It is now officially time for book math, and I had probably the smallest reading month I've ever had. I read 5 books in May, which is not a lot of books, but half of May was spent reading a very large book, one that has been on my TBR forever. So I am a little annoyed by that number, but numbers really don't matter. Reading is not a competition, so I need this more for me than for what I'm telling you guys. So 5 books. I'm pretty sure I come out ahead on physical books, but I do not come out ahead in NetGalley because Summer Reading dropped. The Modern Mrs. Darcy Book Club and Sarah's Bookshelves Live have all dropped their summer reading guides, and so I requested a bunch of stuff on NetGalley. I need to stop. It's a problem. So book math is just a way for me to mindfully address the books that are coming in and out of my house and to try to just read more than I bring in. It's not perfect. It's not always doable. It's rarely doable. Every month my number is negative. So basically I take the number of physical books that I bring in minus the number of physical books I read in the hope that it's the physical that I've read from my shelf outweigh the ones I've brought in, and then same with NetGalley, that I'm trying to just be more mindful of my NetGalley books, and that's not going well. We will just be honest with that. For May, I read 5 books. I am doing a book of the month reading vlog right now, so I'm not going to go into a ton of details on the book of the month books I've read, but I did read some pretty good books. So first we're going to go through the books that I brought into this house, and then we will talk about the NetGalleys. I'm a little scared to even look at my NetGalleys, to be honest. Okay, so physically, I brought in 4 books, and one of them actually doesn't count. So my 2 book of the months, I did pick 2 this month, but there's a reason. So funny enough, I picked The Ministry of Time because I keep seeing this everywhere. And then my dog-eared book subscription this month was The Ministry of Time. So I actually got 2 copies of this. I ended up selling my one from Dog-Eared Books because it's signed on Pango. My Pango is always listed below, but I figured I would sell that one because it's signed. I'd get more money for it. So I brought this in. And then Eric Larson is one of my favorite authors. I actually have another book of the month book of his on my shelf that I haven't gotten to. The Demon of Unrest is another one. It's pretty large. He is really good. If you're looking for a book to recommend to your dad, anything by Eric Larson, but he takes historical events and writes them with a very narrative nonfiction way. And I love how he writes. He just, The Devil in the White City is one of the best nonfiction books I've ever read. I loved In the Garden of Beasts. I have a few others of his on my shelf, but only 2 book of the month. So this is one I'm hoping to get to soon because, I'm trying to read my book of the month. Funny enough, I also got the paperback of Paper Names by Susie Lowe from the publisher. I did not request this. This was just sent to me from Hanover Square Press. And I actually have this from book of the month. So I, again, have 2 copies of this book now. This will go on to my Pango more than likely. I've heard really good things about this book from Annie B. Jones, who is the owner of The Bookshelf in Thomasville, Georgia. And then she has From the Front Porch as a podcast. If you're looking for bookish podcasts, definitely recommend. This is set in New York and China over 3 decades. It tells what it means to be an American from 3 different perspectives. I think I'm going to prioritize this sooner rather than later because I read Real Americans earlier this year and gave it 5 stars by a totally different author, but same setup. 3 people from China being American. What does that mean? So this now intrigues me even more, but this doesn't count. So really I've only gotten 3 books. So then my final book is The Expatriates. This is a book club book that I'm reading with my In Real Life book club. And this is actually being made into a TV series. Or it is a TV series on Prime. I think our theme this year is celebrity book club books that have been made into TV because we're going to read and then watch. So this is that. Pretty excited. I'll be getting to this one. I think I'm bringing it on vacation with me because it seems like it'll be pretty light and easy. Not light necessarily, but quick to get through. I brought in 3 books physically. Now let's look at NetGalley. Okay, so I can't get into NetGalley on my computer, but it's on my phone and that's what I'm filming on. So I can't necessarily go through all my NetGalleys, but I did bring in 11 NetGalleys. Like, I actually got quite a few good ones this month. I've gotten The Cliffs, Spitting Gold, Middle Tide, Burn by Peter Heller. He's one of my favorite authors. Run, which is Blake Crouch's book, but I guess it's a re-release. The Cliffs, The New Cat Shook. There's a few other books, I can't think of them, but 11 books, but I only read one. So my score for NetGalley will be -10. And then my score for physical shelf will be 1, so a positive. So my score for May will be -9. Okay. So the only NetGalley book I read this month was I Cheerfully Refuse by Leaf Anger. And this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. And unfortunately, it just didn't work for me. Now, I read a lot of this book in April when I lost my aunt, and grief is a big component of this book. So I think the book was hard for me in general. But I will say it felt meandering and it wasn't what I expected. I loved Peace Like a River by Leaf Anger. And this book had it takes place on the North Shore of Minnesota. So I like the setting, 5 stars, the writing, 5 stars. The story was just not what I expected. So this man loses his wife, and we're in a near dystopian world. He loses his wife to this weird drug cartel situation thing that was never really clear to me. And then he decides to sail on Lake Superior because they went on a trip because he thinks for some reason his wife might have actually not been killed and she's with her favorite author. I did not track this very much. I love the Lake Superior-ness of it. He does change names of towns, but Leaf Anger is from Duluth, so he goes more from Duluth. He does go up to Canada, but he comes down to Wisconsin, Lake Superior, all that, and sails around Lake Superior. So that was really fun. The setting was really fun. I would compare I Cheerfully Refuse to the Ferryman by Justin Cronin. It reminded me a lot, very similar books in that the dystopia feel kind of, but I don't know. I mean, they're totally different, but that was the vibe. I kept thinking of The Ferryman by Justin Cronin, which I actually liked way more. So I was a little disappointed by it, but the setting was really good. The writing was great. I don't know. I thought about because it was set on Lake Superior, I so badly wanted to buy it and add it to my bookshelf, and I'm glad I didn't, honestly. So, and then I spent the bulk of my month reading 11/22/63, and I'm going to cut to some video footage right now in which I talk about my thoughts on this book. Hey friends, this is Kelsey, and you saw my announcement video, so this isn't news, but this is my last week of work at my current job. To remove this, you can't see my screen as much. Okay, so this is my last week at my current job. I am winding things down this week, and half of the month was spent reading 11/22/63, which I gave this 4 stars. This was for a book club I'm in. And I really loved it. I listened to it on audio and read it physically, and I wish I had read it physically until I'd met all the main characters, because I do not like how the audiobook narrator narrated Sadie, which is the love interest in this book. The narrator was great for almost everything else except for women. And I also don't like how Stephen King writes women. I just don't like his tone with women. The audiobook narrator made Sadie, who was 28 years old, sound like a Southern 75-year-old woman. And it was so distracting. So that's my only gripe with this book. It was 4 stars. There were it probably would have been a 5-star book had I read this right when it came out. But I think it was hyped, but also there were just some plot holes and stuff that I didn't necessarily love. I didn't really love the ending. So all in all though, it was fun. It was hard to put down. It was a huge book, so it did take me a while, which is why the first half of the month was spent reading this, because I needed to get it done for book club. 4 stars. And then I finished up a book from Aurelium. I did this one on audio last month, and it is Wandering in Strange Lands by Morgan Jenkins. I think for April's Aurelium, which I failed at because of my aunt passing away. This was for a zodiac pick. So this book was recommended to Sagittarius, which is me. And this is about Morgan, who lives in New York City, New Jersey. And she's trying to figure out how her family ended up there. She's a child of divorced parents. And she basically travels Georgia, New Orleans, Oklahoma, and Los Angeles, and kind of looks at how the Great Migration affected her family and then how she got to where she is today. There were parts I really liked. There were parts that just kind of drug for me. I thought some of the conversation on gang violence in LA was fascinating because I'd never thought about that. And then this just reaffirmed how racist Georgia is. I'm sorry if you're from Georgia. y'all got a lot going on with your government. And this was a very good book. If you like kind of memoir mixed with serious nonfiction, I would definitely recommend this. I was very, very intrigued by it. I really loved the audio narrator. It was really good on audio, so if you're looking for that as well, definitely recommend. And then I am working on a book of the month reading vlog, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on these books because they will come up in a later video, hopefully posted like a week from now, but we'll just see how my calendar is because we're traveling. So I have What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. This was a 4-star read. I loved it. I cannot wait for the sequel to come out. I wish for it on NetGalley. I hope I get it. And then Dragon Fruit by Makia Lucier. And this was just a really fun YA fantasy. It was a super fast read. It's what I needed to kind of get into a different headspace after reading this. So I gave it 3 stars. Fun, but like pretty unmemorable, honestly. But yeah, I think I had no 5 stars this month because I only read 5 books, but I had 2 4 stars and then 3 3 stars. So a pretty good month of reading, pretty small month of reading. I'm hoping June is more. We're going on vacation. Some of the videos I'm looking to get up for you guys in June will be a book of the month reading vlog, my anticipated releases for the 3rd quarter of the year, a reading goal check-in, and then probably a couple other reading vlogs. We are going to Colorado, and so I'm going to be, probably when this video goes up, I will be in Colorado. But I have a TBR for that I would like to do, and then I'll continue doing like book of the month TBRs. Maybe I'll do a NetGalley one. I'm just kind of not making reading plans because I do start a new job tomorrow, and I just don't know what. I just don't know what my life is going to look like as I'm balancing going back into the office full time. It's summer. I have a almost 4-year-old. I might not read a lot, and that's fine. Like that's fine. So I don't know what this is going to look like, but these are the plans I have. I have some of these videos planned so that I can give myself space to get reading done so that I have more content. But yeah, like July will be summer ween, so that's fun. Yeah, I think April or May's book math was fairly good. I didn't add a ton of books to my shelf, and I ended up with -9. So in the caption of this video, I do put my numbers so that I kind of track them. But yeah, I hope this was fun for my monthly wrap up and book haul. Until the next video, you guys, I will see you later. Thanks.